So I don't want to be that guy, but it's the second video and my arm is already killing me. I'm thinking about buying a selfie stick. So as you can see today, I'm wearing a yellow hoodie to indicate that time has passed since the last video. Hope you'll appreciate that. And for those of you wondering, why is he wearing a hoodie? Isn't it Australia? Shouldn't he be melting? Yes, but we also have winter here where it's about 24 degrees instead of 40. So there's that. Let me tell you a story. So for those who don't know me, I would include myself in that, which of us truly know ourselves. I thought I'd record this quick introduction after the introduction, as is my way. Just telling you a little bit about my history in gaming for context. And I did promise you nostalgia, so deal with it. So I played my first game of Warhammer when I was 15 in a dodgy old community services hall, very poorly lit, fluorescent lighting, you know, the usual lots of small annoying kids, of which I was one, big, large men and sweaty men with bad acne. So it was there that I got to play my first ever 500-point game with a little high elf army that had 10 archers, 10 spearmen and a bolt thrower. My God, it was glorious. And in that very first game, I was already dicing people where my Bretonian opponent, who'd also never played before, I managed to shoot off his entire Grail Knight unit with one flank shot from a bolt thrower. Suffice to say, 16 years later, I'm still playing the game, and he was never seen again. We just casually sit down next to an empty playground and, you know, sit here talking for a while. Will be a fairly abrupt end to the YouTube channel if I got arrested for being a predator. So when I was 18, 19, I finished my first year of university doing creative writing, of all things. And I decided I had some money saved and it was my time to spread my wings and see the world. So I decided to take a gap year. I booked a round the world 12-month ticket and I decided to go and see Europe. For those who don't know, I'm actually from Sweden originally. I was born there. My father lived there still at the time. So I had roots in Europe that I decided to go and revisit, as well as see a bunch of other countries. So my visit coincided with now you're testing me, 2008 ETC, which I went and partook in as a mercenary. So I went and played my Lizardman army there and crushed many people, including a very upset Spaniard, on the bottom tables. I was merking for Northern Ireland. Very strange thing happened after that, which was I scored like 80 plus points, and the rest of Northern Ireland were, you know, just wallowing in their ways, still finding their feet. And after the event, they asked me to be the captain for the next year, which I thought was very strange. I politely declined and said, I think it should probably be someone from your country. But anyway, from there, I had time on my hands and no real obligation. So I had a big old backpack and my army case. And I decided just to start backpacking around Europe. And because I had already kind of gained an internet following by posting a lot of battle reports. I think one year I went to 12 tournaments with my tournament buddy. So I'd already posted a lot of battle reports on the Warhammer forum and had literally hundreds of readers. If you remember me from those days, then wow, you're old. So I actually posted up on the Warhammer forum that I was going to be traveling to Europe, and if anyone wanted to meet up for a game, then all they had to do is feed me, bathe me, house me, basically take me in. And surprisingly, more than a dozen people in 5 different countries did. So in the space of 5 or 6 months, I managed to play war games in Germany, the Netherlands, Belgium, Sweden, Denmark, England. Never made it to France, never made it to Croatia. Went to Italy, but didn't game there. Was that it? Eventually, I ended up in Nottingham, which, as some of you may know, is the home of Warhammer, where Games Workshop HQ is, including the fabulous character for Warhammer World. And, you know, as a massive geek, it was inevitable that I would end up there. And as it so happened, I played in a tournament there, I knew I knew a gentleman by the fellow Joe Sturge, Woodland Animal, who was a fellow battle reporter on the forum, and I met up with him and became really good friends with him and two of his other wargaming buddies, both of which I ended up living with, one after another. And long story short, I decided that I was having such a good time that I would miss my return flight back to Australia and stay on and live in England for a while, which turned into 3.5 years. While I was living in England, I ran over a dozen tournaments. I played in God knows how many. I started a Warhammer painting studio, which I successfully ran for close to 2 years, selling painted stuff to people with too much money on eBay. I also started the Unseen Lurker magazine. Terrible name, I'm sorry about that. And thank you to those who did subscribe. It was an amazing journey. Ended up being circulated in, I want to say, 27 countries, all the way from the US to, I think I had a subscriber in China, Australia, New Zealand, England, and most of Europe, which was just an amazing journey and experience. And I'm sorry for the bad graphic design in the first one. I did that myself until I actually worked with a professional on the rest. So I would think, probably the closest thing to a professional wargamer you could get, just not being paid to actually game. So running events, doing painting, running a magazine. Eventually, the dark and the cold got to me a little bit. There were only so many Christmases I could spend snowed in with my grandparents in Sweden. And I decided I missed my family here and the beaches of Australia, so I decided to come on back after almost 4 years away. In my illustrious 16 years of wargaming, I've played in three ETCs, 4 Masters tournaments, which are the invitational top 16 players from the country, both 2 in the UK and 2 here in Australia. I'm sure I'll end up doing some sort of recaps or reports because there are some hilariously embarrassing and epic things that happen in those. I've run even more tournaments since then. Played a lot of tournaments here in Australia, especially recently. Played in a number of UB events, including getting the opportunity to play against some of the Ninth Age's best players, which has been a real treat. And yeah, now that I'm starting a Ninth Age YouTube channel, I can happily die in peace, having now crossed this off my bucket list as well. So as for what armies I play, my first ever game was with Highborn Elves. I got into the game because of the fluff behind the Highborn Elves. But the first army that I actually successfully painted and took to a tournament, and the first year and a half of my tournament games were with vampire counts. There will be a separate video just on that topic because it's, let's say, a sensitive one. Ever since then, my first successful army that I really ever dominated with was Lizardmen. I think in the year where I was in Europe backpacking around and living out of a bag and paying my way with games because half my luggage was my army. I think I played more than one game a day. I totaled it up with Lizardmen. So as a result, I can't touch the army anymore without flinching because I have more than 400 games with Lizardmen, or whatever their equivalent is now. So traumatized I can't say it. But since then, I've painted a Demon Legion's army, which is massive, and I only have like a little over half the book done. And my true love at the moment is Highborn Elves. I've just returned to them in the last few years, testing a bunch of different builds, and I just love the flexibility of the army. I think it's so cool. You can just do everything. It's really high skill for as well. I'm kind of like a control freak when I play, which might not be the greatest experience for the opponent sometimes, but I just think it's really interesting to having an army that can explode at any minute, so it's got to be perfectly managed in position. I've played almost every army some point along the years. I think I never played a game with dwarfs. I never played a game with infernal dwarfs. I still refuse to acknowledge them as a real army, sadly. But really those are my core main armies. I play all three kinds of elves on a regular basis. I like demons. I sort of like Saurian Ancients. Um, and every now and then I'll dip my toes in the undead water. But these days I'm a big fan of combined arms, flexible style lists. There'll be a video on that at some point. But I'll wrap it up here anyway. That was just to give you a little bit of history. And next time I'll actually try and give you some content with content in it, actual gaming related stuff. So stay safe, and I'll see you.